I'm good, brother.
Yeah, there we go. Let me make sure that it has me. Hopefully, it goes back and forth. I'm slightly, we're getting pro level here. If anything, it'll have me up in this corner and it'll look funny. It's all good, man. But yeah, the discussion for State of the Empire, I think the first step for that empire is ourself. And I know you definitely would agree with that. At least I think so. In the sense of if we don't have ourselves together, our goals together, what we're really trying to push for, then how are we gonna, have other people be able to see the thing we see? You can't project a facade. You have to be standing there and pushing it in a real type of way like that. And I saw you had a post for like a 90-day um, challenge you're putting yourself through, and that's starting 2 days on the 20th.
Yeah.
And so, I kind of see like you pushing on that. So I kind of wanted to hear because how you're whatever you're doing with that is going to be extenuating to your empire, and then we can kind of jump into the whole empire as a whole when we talk about the world and all that. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, to touch back on what you said about building yourself to build the empire, that is like dead on. When I started working with Bael, you trace him back far enough, and it's Baal, the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, and from ancient Canaanite religion, as well as Phoenician appeared in there. A lot of the earliest religions and magical traditions had Baal as their centerpiece, and in working with him through and creating my grimoire and path working of Baal, one of the big things that he kept touching on is you build the kingdom by building the king. If you're focused on the external, I've got to go get this, and I've got to have these things or have these experiences, or my bank account has to look like this, and that's the definition of your kingdom. I mean, not only are you limited, but you're probably not going to get the things that you're looking for because you're searching outwards. So really, you need to build yourself, build your strength, your connection, your connectedness,
mm.
your relationships, obviously, your spiritual self, your magical self, which spiritual self and magical self could
Yeah,
maybe even be two different types of two different phases of the being. So yeah, it really is a matter of focusing on yourself, focusing on how you need to grow, how you need to expand, and then as you do this, your empire just rises up around you, like not effortlessly. There's always a ton of effort,
yeah,
but yeah, the pieces assemble themselves, or at least they show you how to be assembled, and then you can start grabbing them and putting them into place really easily because the shift, the hardest shift has already been made, and that's within the self. So yeah, that point couldn't be more on. And then this 90-day challenge, it's funny because this is a very preemptive, because this is leading up to a product that may be out in a couple years if I really push it. And this is the Power Shift program. At least that's what I'm calling it now. I'm sure when I get into meetings with Timothy, he's gonna probably find a completely different way of packaging this. But for my working title, it's the Power Shift program, and this basically takes a person, any person that wants to make significant change and wants to basically find their next level in life, and just puts all the pieces in that they can actually do that. That it's not just, first off, the question of like, is there a next level? There's always a next level, and if you can't see what it is, perfect. That means it's a really awesome next level, and the stepping stones that you use to get there are going to be the same, which is, once again, getting into heavy discipline with your body, your actions, your words, uh, your transportation of yourself, what you're doing in the time in between, all of the different ways that you can start to fine tune the gears of who you are as an individual. You really start locking that in, and then the next level just presents itself. The next opportunities that you're needing just open up. All the doors that you need opened are open for you. You just pass right on through. But once again, it does require a tremendous amount of discipline, every single day for 90 days. And for that 90 days, you're working on a lot of micro commitments, micro accomplishments where, sometimes it's like, 1 week might be, I need to take out the trash and make my bed and clean my bedroom. If that's all you get done, that's fine. The beauty of this is, as I tailor it and work it a bit, the beauty of it is that the individual user is going to be able to determine exactly what goals they're working on, what they want to actually focus their time on, what speaking love and doing acts of love for your loved ones, what that actually means, how you do that, and how that looks in your particular relationship dynamics, what your exercise looks like. That's not for me or anybody else to come in and say, hey, here's what you should be doing.
Yeah.
We already pretty much know what we need to do to make our lives awesome, and we just don't do it. We just look the other way, or we get pulled into another direction. So I have this as a concept that I've worked through loosely through over this last year, and really like pulling myself back from a brink of self-destruction and going, no, there is a next level. There's more for you to be doing with your life, and here's how you get there. So it was really rough. At this point, I'm really fine tuning it and using myself as really my first human test subject to see, if
Oh
this
yeah,
actually does work. Yeah, if this
definitely.
actually does work, if it's gonna do everything that I promise it'll do, and then to work the kinks out of it as I go.
That's awesome. And I know I've heard a little bit about your Power Shift program, and just kind of people saying, each day you have to, like each morning for myself, like this year, I've made it a commitment. I have to meditate as soon as I wake up. And then there's the workout and my eating right now. And honestly, it's as the year has gone on, yeah, it's not been the easiest, but I've gained more prosperity. I've seen the next tier levels to unlock. It's just kind of like a game in a sense. I mean, are we inside of a matrix? But it really is just like hitting these benchmarks, and then once you hit those, you do see more things, and more people come into your life that are gonna help connect those dots and take you where you need to go. And that's the not even take you where you need to go, help show you yourself on knowing yourself more to know where you need to go. That's the way that it really is. And even ball, I had to do an invisibility. There was a couple situations I was just like, I just want to keep it invisible, and I just asked, which his most spirits, when I do a conjuration, I can feel it here, and I have that energy there. But his lingered for days, just days, and like it was hard to even sleep. And like, I was like, thank you so much for all your help with the invisibility. But not only like I had that for his assistance, but he talked about the kingship, and that for in order for me to even take myself or to have, because I know kind of now the stars I'm kind of going for, and how I do know where I need to be play like in this whatever it is. I want to have when people see me and they see my actions, it helps guide them towards a greater fulfillment for themselves. Because it's not about, oh, look, there's Leighton, LA Alchemist. It's all about, wow, did you hear what he said? Wow, I really want to take a change and change our planet, change myself, and see differently, have a different outlook. But the thing is I like my first stuff I was all doing and everything else. I couldn't really project it correctly because the inner alignment wasn't there. As each day has gone on, more and more, it's getting better and better. And I just hit 178, and I'm going for 160 for my weight. And that's been since I was 21. Well, actually, since I was 18 years old. I mean, when I was 21, I was 235 pounds. That's when I started the whole weight loss. And so it's like I'm seeing all this pushing forward, and instead of looking though at, man, how far have I gone, and then kind of being disappointed on how far you wish you could be, it's like you got to enjoy the process. And I think that's a huge key, because if you just stumble, during something destructive occurs, and or like for me, my dark night of the soul with my dad, like that could have really thrown a wrench and made me go in a whole other direction, but instead it made a whole new baseline. This inner fire, this I won't ever be that person again who I was, and I can go forward now with a new flame that's going to be unstoppable, a burning passion. And that's huge. It's huge.
Yeah, yeah. There are a few major things you touched on there. One is that you said enjoy the process, and maybe even taking a step earlier than that is to understand that there is a process, and that like you're not just fumbling around. There actually is a process that's pulling you forward towards your next level, towards your greatest self. And um, and that so understand that there is a process that you're in the middle of, whether you're just barely coming into magic, or even if you think magic is silliness, or if you've been a practitioner your whole life, it doesn't matter. We're all in embedded into a process, or a process of some transcendental sort is embedded into us, and it does pull us forward through time. And so understand that it is there, and then trust the process. Like, especially with magic, you do a ritual or a spell, or a meditation, or even just focus your mind on the things that you want and throw it out into the universe. And things, you always get exactly what you needed, exactly what you really wanted. Usually that's not what you thought you wanted, and usually that's not what you asked for, and it hardly ever comes in a way that it hardly ever comes in the way that you set down. You said, I need this money by this date, and it needs to look like this. No, never comes that way, never ever. But because there is that process in the works, and then you start to scramble against it. You start to fight the change and go, oh, sure, I put everything on the altar and I said I'll sacrifice everything, but then my girlfriend that's been holding me back for several years now leaves. Why does she leave me? Well, trust the process. There's a process in play. And then when it comes to loss, or really when it comes to anything, the way to step out of pain, the pain is going to be there, I guess. The way to step out of suffering would be to look at the situation that you're agonizing over, and search for the blessing, because there is some major, I mean, divine or diabolical lightning strike, and you can look at it and go, if only you'll actually look for it, rather than looking for, here's why today sucks, here's why I can't get moving today, here's why I can never accomplish anything, here's why I'm not able to be the man I could be, because my dad never gave me the stuff that he needed to give me before he passed away. It's like, oh man, that all of those avenues of focusing your attention are not, they're not going to get you forward at all.
There's way too much lack. That's way too much lack mentality. Thinking that,
Oh
that's
yeah.
like, oh, woe is me. I should have had this. Should have had this. And oh, Belial, I asked for this, and you did the exact opposite. And it's like, dude, like, you see the blessing through that. Like, really, I Belial really put that exact lesson into me. I was like, hey, can you help me out with this girl? Oh, please help this. What did he do? He made her despise me, and he made me leave the company. Wow, thank you. You took me to a whole new level. And like that's what it is. It's about seeing those blessings and not being so obsessed with the end state. But I do think the end state's obviously a good push, to get you to go push yourself towards that direction. But
Yeah.
being stuck and obsessed with the lack of things, I spent too many years of my life like that, and I'm that's never going back again. We can only push forward and be thankful for what we have, as well as the things that we can accomplish. And
Yeah. Well, and if you're seeing the end result as being the end result, that is the actual final destination. Once you get there, you're going to be happy. Everything's going to be settled. You're going to relax forever. No, no, no. Like, none of this is real. None of this. I mean, it's all very real in that we're experiencing it, and it seems all very tangible. But you, you give yourself a destination to get yourself moving. Not even necessarily to reach that destination, but to start moving your efforts, your mind, your emotions, your willpower, your strength, your resources, and pushing it all towards that thing that you want to reach. You you're almost see. I don't want to should all over people. I don't want to tell people what they should do, but it is best if you can look at any goals, any aspirations that you might have as just being fun. It's just part of the game that you're playing, and it doesn't matter if you hit it or not. What matters is that you work towards it, and then you can course correct on the way. You go, oh, well, that was, for instance, I had a goal of having a six pack, right? I talked to one of my mentors about this. Like, he's all, yeah, what's your goal for the next, and the a group that I worked with over this last year, they work in 100-day cycles. And I was like, 100 days, I can do it faster. I can cut 10 days off of that, make it 90 days. It's all good. And, but talked to one of the coaches there, and he's like, yeah, what's your goal for your body, for your physical health? And I was like, in the next 100 days. I said, yeah, it'd be really cool to have a six pack. And I had already started working towards that. Already started, dropping weight and doing a million crunches and whatever. He goes, look, a six pack. Are you trying to impress other people? I'm like, oh shit, I guess I am. He's like, well, why are you so concerned about what other people think? Why don't you worry about what you think about yourself and try to bring that up at the same time you're bringing your body up? I'm going, oh, okay, cool. And so that was like a course correction that I had to do. Okay, maybe a six pack, because that really is all, for me at least, is about impressing other people and getting other people to go, ooh, look at that.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's a black hole. You can't feed that enough to make it valuable at all. You just keep stuffing other people's attention into it, and it's never enough. And so yeah, you make these course corrections as you go, and no matter how like personal and how big the goal is, whatever, the home I'm living in now, this at one point was a goal, a pretty big one, and when I started taking that too seriously, it turned into a lot of suffering. If I can go, well, maybe I get the home, maybe I don't. Let me work towards it and see what I can do. And if that's not going to work out, it's almost like water flowing through a desert. You're going to find the way that you need to go. You're going to find the path that is actually going to carry you to where you want to go. But yeah, it's if we start getting attached to that end result, to Belial getting us that girl to be. And getting the girl is one of the most tempting uses of black magic that is also like the most futile.
Exactly. I agree. That's what pushed me way back in the day to do research into it. And now I look at it, and one thing I can without a doubt say is, as you know yourself, as Lucifer would say, as you grow to become your greatest self and your greatest version, everything comes to you. Whether that's the career, the prosperity, the female, all that stuff. Why try to change anyone's perception? I mean, there's a DJ quote that says, if you play the music to get the people, for the people, you're screwed. Play it for yourself. Enjoy yourself in your own vibe, and that is what's going to radiate out. And that's what magic's really brought me to the truth of. When people say, what's the biggest thing you've learned? That is what I've learned. Like, knowing who we are in itself, because everything else then flows from that, like the water. Otherwise, you're trying to take control, and to have control means you're living in fear because you have a lack of control. And then that becomes an obsession, and that's a wheel. I'm going to call it a wheel of karma, in a sense of your own internal karma to yourself over and over. And that's when I see the same lessons play out over and over and over in the same existence, the same thing. And I had that happen 4 years of my life. And it's crazy. It just blows my mind that I had to go to such a dark place, like literally to have to see my dad, like literally my dad changed my life. I mean, not only with all the knowledge he bestowed upon me and all that, but it's like to see when people you really care about you and are really there, lose them. It makes all the small stuff so much whatever. Like I'm not gonna lie, I've walked in this past couple months saying, I think I'm going to be put back in the pit. I think the driving thing, they're just going to say, you're done, man. And I laugh now. I'm just laughing because I'm like, I'm almost to the end of seasonal. I'm already almost there. Everyone else alongside that I got involved they're all dropping off. Something's happening. And my thing's just getting better and better. And it's just like when you almost just be full of that joy and enjoying the ride, then you don't have to be so scattered. Oh my God, I'm going to lose that job. I'm not going to be able to fulfill all my stuff. And it's like, stay in your vibe and know what happen's supposed to happen. And it's such a corny cliche, you know. Or what's supposed to, what is that cliche statement? All I know, pretty much, you know, whatever happens supposed to happen. And it's like, no, that is really how it is. And
Well, there's that. So it's all. It seems like there's a static state of things. Like if you're not putting forth any effort, you're all right. So there's this author from a century ago that was awesome, Napoleon Hill.
oh yeah.
Yeah. One of the books that I really zeroed in on of his this last year has been Conversations with the Devil, and in this it actually wasn't published. He wrote it, and it is conversations that he has with the devil on how the devil is able to take otherwise good people and just completely destroy their lives. And he goes, let's decode this. And because of the subject and the context of the whole thing, he finished writing it, brings it to his wife, and she's like, we cannot publish that. That's going to chase away all of our good Christian followers, and you're talking to the devil. Like, what kind of stuff is that? And so they basically shelved it. And then his children, after his death, his children get to look at this manuscript. They're like, we cannot publish this. So it actually didn't get published until like the 70s, like 50 some years after it was written. So in this, Napoleon, in questioning the devil about all the different ways that he can pull people off of their path of ascent or their path of goodness and success, it basically keeps coming down to being in the drift, what he calls the drift. That let's say you're driving a car on snow, and you've got good traction, your tires are inflated, properly. They got good tread on them. You got your hands on the steering wheel. You're steering the car, awesome. Most people aren't doing that. Most people don't even have their hands on the steering wheel. They're not even concerned about where they're going, and they're just drifting. Wherever this car happens to take me, I guess that's where it is. So it's almost like there are the static state is that drift. It's like things will just fall apart, and just you're not going to get any better. Your life's not going to get any better unless you do something. But then there's a very clear road that develops as soon as you grab the steering wheel, focus on where you're going, and start taking the steps to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is just as simple as turning your attention to the direction you're going, to your destination. Whether that destination is made up or is truly important really doesn't matter. It would be better if you just didn't consider it to be truly important, because that's when you'll get into the drift even more. Like, let's say you're moving full speed, and you've got physical health goals, and then you wake up on the wrong side of the bed. You don't do your morning ritual, your morning meditation. You go start eating cupcakes and muffins and whatever else. Well, if you being the weight that you want to be, having the physique that you want, is so nailed in that you're just absolutely attached to it and cannot be any other way, that one day of messing up is going to throw off your entire plan.
Yep.
And so just by not being attached to it, going, you know what, like, this is a fun goal, and I am taking it very seriously. I'm going all in, but if I don't reach it, that's okay. If I do reach it, that's okay. Moving towards it is what's most important.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I have no idea where that was coming from and going, but I do want to share something with you. As you were mentioning, it's so funny how these beings will give us knowledge that's kind of shared amongst us without us knowing. I was working with Satan the other day, and he was talking about the future. I was asking him about the future and what's kind of lying ahead, and he starts talking about choices. And he said, not one choice for one result, because I'm like, whose choices? My choices, or the choices of like the power elite, or what? He says, no, not one choice for one result, but countless choices made in the course of the day, every day, for the remainder of existence, and for which no prepared reply will suffice. The answer to each decision arises from the question, who am I? This is why so many struggle in making decisions, in asserting their will, and in choosing and standing behind their choice. Very few know who they are, and those who do have come to no understanding on how to teach others the method by which such knowledge can be found. It's a human condition to be capable of knowing the self and yet to luxuriate in the diseased waters of not knowing nor striving to know themselves. It said that my first commandment was to know that thyself. I give no commandments, nor do I request any sacrifices. But when one who is all and who is one appears to me to ask what to do, my response is eternal: know thyself. All of the universes could hang upon this singular knowing, and not a single moment would find itself out of place. For when one knows themselves, all other knowings are fulfilled without flaw and without delay. Thus, know thyself, and every choice you make will be perfect. Seeking to understand others or to understand that which takes form to the senses is like seeking to capture mist in a vessel. If it is water that you seek to possess, you must go to the source, not to the evaporative product of the water. And so he just lays out very intensely that know yourself, really know who you are, know what you're about, know what you stand for, what you'll go all in on, and what you really don't have time for. Know yourself intimately, and then the decisions that you make, the choices that you make instantly as they're presented to you are going to be right, because you're not thinking about the choice itself. You're coming back to who am I, and one of the big things with that is having to know your values, your hard lines, and if your actions, or if the thing that's in front of you, if the choice that's in front of you is going to move in the direction that you want to go, if it's going to take you where you want to go, or if it's going to pull you further away from where you want to go. And you do have to start living and acting in congruence with your highest values, your deepest needs, the things that you actually want. Start being true to yourself and stop giving a damn about what anybody else thinks or says or does. You just do you, and you get so comfortable and so organic in just doing you, that when you have choices pop up and decisions that you have to make, all you're thinking is, what decision would I make? What decision is best for me? Rather than, what would so-and-so think?
Yep.
Or what's so-and-so going to say about it when I go to work, and whatever. You make the decision that's best for you. And it is a muscle that you have to just exercise and daily, and be true to yourself daily. And then it does start just kind of like a lotus, just opening up to you and showing you all of the splendors of reality, because it does create a magical flow that, as you're more true to yourself, the garden just blossoms for you.
Oh, definitely, because you're not stuck with that blockage of, what's that person think? Who's that? Is my family member gonna think this and that? Like, last year was my point where I was like, I'm gonna tell everyone I do magic. I'm gonna tell everyone I summon spirits. I don't care. Like, I literally do not care. And there were so many situations that I was then presented to where I had to actually take that step and do it. And great, that's wonderful. And now the relationships that are there are actually like eternal, something that will last, that where I can actually have that depth. Because if you can't, the way I see it, if you can't speak your heart, your heart chakra, who you are to someone, and like there's even a little hesitation, even if it's something stupid and trivial, then it's uncomforting. It's very uncomforting, to be honest. And when you're in that situation, then you're feeling like you're on eggshells. How are you supposed to make any momentum or push forward or truly be like, who cares? Like, I'm going to show myself, be myself. And that was really beautiful. That was really beautiful. And actually, so my route I drive, I'm going to say ironically, but it's divinely, is the route that I, in high school, used to ghost hunt all the time. And I'd see black cats all the time on this route. Like, I'm like, you guys are watching, you're awesome. And I was thinking about Satan. I was like, so out of all the gatekeepers now, whether it's a face, like, I've called King Paimon, but I've not called Azazel. I've called Kali, but I've not called, Abaddon. Sorry, sorry guys, you guys already know, represent. But I was always so hesitant about Satan, and I was like, all right, so what does he look like? What's his energy like? And I'm driving, and I'm like, I'm feeling this blue blue and this green energy of this huge beast, of this nature beast. And it's actually very like comforting. And that's all Orly was on, and during one of our live chats, I was like, "All right, I'm just gonna ask her, like, what's her projection of it?" And she ended up saying, so my hair color, and it's this teal color, and she said it was a blue green color. She's like, this is the color and the energy that surrounds that is that. And I was like, wow, like that was right there, a reality of just showing that that connection is real. And the imagination is key. Doing any of these conjurations, like if you don't have an imagination, that's definitely something to work on. It's not gonna hold you back. It's the end all be all. But I realized something that I was trained my whole life as a kid, because I'd always walk in circles, and my dad would be like, "I don't know why you do that," because I'm reading these books about it, and it's about energy gathering. And as a kid, I'm just doing it and getting lost in imagination. And that's where I've always been able to go. It's just like go on a walk, and now I'm in a whole new world. I'm just gone, and I come back. It's a form of meditation. And then I realized, like with spirits, that's all it takes. It's just where's the crossroads we're gonna meet? What type of form and energy do you want? Kind of like just kind of put around, and then let's just go. Let's just have it happen. And that has been tremendous. It brings it to life so much. And I never understood how you could like have a conversation with a spirit while even driving or anything like that. Now it all makes sense. It's instead of being so tight, being like tight like this, like, all right, I got it. Let me get the paper right. Let me get this. It's a free flow state, which can also be, really intense, because then like you're getting downloads pretty doggone quick, like constantly. And then the synchronicities play out in front of you and overlap. So it's like you really have to be conscious and attuned in the moment to really capture all that in. I think it's just beautiful. I don't see how anyone isn't doing magic. Or, I mean, I think everyone's doing magic, but it's like, how can you not want to live that life? It's beautiful.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot, honestly. Like, and so it is beautiful. And when you've increased your capacity to that there's not a single event or particle or vibration that I can become aware of that's not a part of me. And when your capacity is infinite, it's impossible to come back down to believing that you're just a monkey descendant. Like
Yeah.
there's yeah, but the opposite, when you're a bipedal mammal trying to figure out if you're God, the whole proposition of increasing your capacity of becoming all and being fully responsible for every single thing that not only happens to you but has happened to you, everything that you've thought of, everything that forms your sphere of being, all of that's yours, and you've got to take ownership of that. That's heavy for most people. So I can see why your average sheeple doesn't go out and invest in magic, because it is a very intentional path of increasing your capacity infinitely, increasing your experience infinitely, and that's it's a lot. Yeah.
It is a lot, especially okay. So I mean, we can now kind of push it towards the empire that we live in, especially when we have these televisions. We have social media that it won't even let you say anything about the coronavirus. Won't let you say anything. There's people now coming out saying they're not even testing the people that come in. They just put it in a tube and they just make it so you have the virus. Or if you get in a car wreck and you weren't feeling well, you have the virus. And these little itty bitty things are now coming out, but some people aren't even looking at that. They're just watching the news. I have family that's mainly all they do. And like, so when I explain some of these things that are going on, it's like they're not seeing the fuller picture, and they're just seeing the sheeple walking with what's being told, this, that, and the other, and they're living in the fear. And now it's almost comical with the whole mass. Now it's like, dude, this is crazy. It's almost a manifestation of the higher elite not wanting us to speak, not wanting us to say anything, and we're suffocating with those masks. I mean, really, it's nutty.
Well, and I'll say I don't mind wearing a mask. I do mind my wearing a mask being enforced at gunpoint by officials that we were keeping in office, supposedly. It's yeah, to be mandated to not co- to be mandated to cover your face. Like I can I can understand barely though, but I can understand that we've got to cover our genitals when we go into public. I mean, I do think that's kind of maybe a First Amendment issue that we should be allowed to, whatever. But your face, like wow, that's uh, and what our society has taught us really well through the media that I don't know about your upbringing, but I know mine. I was raised by Mr. Rogers and what's her name? Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins and Mr. Rogers were my two. That was my mom and dad right there. And so just plop in front of the TV sometimes, and especially after a certain age, once my parents got divorced, absolutely TV was it. And masks are worn by bad guys. Masks are worn by people who are trying to conceal themselves and trying to get away with something. So we've been indoctrinated with the belief that masks are bad. They're for bad people doing bad things. But now we're all going to be forced to wear masks. And then it's an interesting little flip that's happened there too, where it's created an in-group, out-group squabble that the people who bought into the mask thing, whether it's helpful or not, is still in debate. But people who bought into it and started wearing masks, then they can go, well, they get this self-righteous thing
Yep.
that pops up. Wow, yeah, I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing the right thing. And people who aren't wearing masks, well, they just don't care about us. They don't care about your life. They don't care about my little baby. They don't care about my dog. They don't care about me. And then it's a division that is very useful to have people squabbling against each other rather than, I mean, even look at the protests
Yep.
that are still going on. It's like this energy could and should be focused on those who are actually the tyrants in power,
Yeah.
instead of the guy who's just trying to run a business and is getting that looted and burned sometimes. It's like who, or the cops. I mean, there is some serious issues with law enforcement that
Yeah.
needs to be addressed, and it seems like the conversation is flowing. That's awesome. Man, harming people is not the way forward in
No.
any case. Like, and so and seeing an entire group of people, whether it's an ethnicity or a profession or a socioeconomic class, seeing one group of people as being the problem is like the oldest trick ever. You look back at I used to study highly influential people who are said to be able to hypnotize masses. And so Charlie Manson was one of the first that I started really looking into it, going, how did he do it? How does he do it? It's incredible that he can speak such nonsense and then people latch onto that and go do his will. Wow. And a common enemy, an enemy that you can see and you can agree, looks like they're bad, looks like they're the problem. So common enemy that you can foist your responsibility for your reality onto them, and then a unification of like, we're working together through these small things, through I know we're all living in this trash dump, but if we can just love each other, just a small thing, we all know that we love each other, then in love you can do no wrong, and we're all united that way. Unlike the enemy, for him at that point, was the blacks. He's like, unlike the blacks who can't feel love like we do, they can't organize themselves like we do. And obviously that's insanity.
Yeah.
But he was able to spin it so well that it made sense to the people listening to him. Go back in time to Adolf Hitler.
Yep.
Same
That's
thing.
what I was just thinking.
Yeah, here are the Jews, and they're the problem. And if we just do these little things, together, then we all know we're together. So we see the same pattern repeating now. But rather than singling out an ethnicity, it's singling out people who are not wanting to cover their faces in order to be able to breathe, to be able to communicate, to connect with others, and just to have autonomy over your own being. Like, wow. Um, yeah. So crazy. It is crazy, but at the same time, it seems like there's something very controlled going on here.
Definitely, and that's I think the 2020 vision is it's us being able to now like start to see those strings because there's a lot of stuff coming out about pedophiles and the Hollywood industry right now, and I believe as more of that's been coming up and the sex trafficking with kids. Like, I mean, obviously, I think everyone can agree that's the biggest concern more than anything. Are you kidding me? If the kids don't grow, first off, the kids don't even get to have a life in the first place. That's awful. But if they stay alive through that, then you know how much baggage, how much negative, how terrible that is? Who are they going to be able to expand to be? Like, that's the true chaos. And I'm seeing that all this other stuff, in my eyes, is all the distraction, making us common folk against each other because, oh, you're not standing here with me in the protest. You're not wearing a mask. You're a liberal. You're a Republican. It's like getting to that point. And I'm hearing even people's conversations who are the sheeple, and that's what they're like, man, they just need to lock up these people, or man, we just need we just need this president. Putting all of our hope into one person or one thing. There's combined power we have to stop these people who are doing these dark things. And when people get into the whole then, oh well, they kill these kids for Satan, this, that, and the other. Well, the way I'm seeing it, and I mean I maybe could be wrong, but the whole thing about Christianity and why they wanted to spread that so much is to make this egregore being so high up and to make this war so big that people focus in on that to empower this other mask. Not another mask, but another being. Because like if you go in the astral realm, there's more than one Lucifer. There's more than one Satan. They're building up this egregore war that is flowing into our reality when there's really only become enlightened and escape through that and see that that's all fake. And they keep empowering it and empowering it. Like people say, oh, Satan made me have this horrible day. I'm like, do you even know what you're saying? Like, do you really understand what you're saying? And it's just making these illusionary wars go on. And then it seeps into this where, now we have race battles and stuff going on. It's like, what's really going on?
Yeah. I mean, first off, like there has never been even a single piece of evidence connecting an organized satanic group or movement to child abuse. Like every single time this has been investigated, satanic ritual abuse, etc. Every time this has been investigated, it always ends up pointing back to Christianity, to Christians running the daycare centers, Christians that are running these churches and that are hiding the facts and then trying to make it look like Satanists. So there's not a single shred of evidence that Satanists as a collective or ideology have any interest in harming children at all. But then like even to remove that and just look at because that there is where people say, oh yeah, well it's a Satanist and Epstein is a Satanist obviously, and they're off in Bohemian Grove doing satanic stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, that's like a red herring to get everybody to look at something other than the problem itself. The problem itself being abuse of children. If we could just like for one generation make a social compact that nobody is to harm children at all, and for one generation not a single child is harmed through abuse, through straight up abuse, then I mean, imagine the world that we'll have. The people who aren't crushed, who aren't overcompensating for everything left and right, who aren't people who aren't afraid of themselves and all of the other things that come along with childhood abuse. It would just be removed. We'd have less terrorists, less criminals, less people who are slamming heroin on the side of the road. We would have such an amazing society. Just one generation test to see how it goes. I'm almost certain that if we stop abusing children, things will get better. Like pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah, number one. I mean, it's just crazy it's happening in the first place. Like, I don't know how anyone could do anything like that to a child. Like, really. Like, when I see kids playing outside when I'm just driving around, I'm like, man, that is great. Look how much joy they have. They're jumping through a sprinkler full of joy. Why am I not jumping through a sprinkler like happy as can be? I'm over here, oh, money, this, that, and the other, you know? And to rob anyone of anything like that is terrible. And I don't know if the whole adrenochrome is real or not. I mean, there's a lot that's pointing yes towards it. But then, going up that trail, it is to just see exactly. There is like a war that's being guided, and I believe the enemies are archons, which is a whole nother thing. But I don't know. It empowers me on my mission more and more, though, to fight for, just like the thing with my dad and seeing all this stuff that goes on in the world. That's why I do what I do with the music. I actually have a new music video coming out like probably about a couple weeks. It's about me. I'm dressed as a pirate with a green screen and about cleaning up plastic out of the ocean and all that. And like it's super great and positive to get people to kind of see that plus laugh. I mean, I think number one, if you get someone to laugh, then that opens up a door to then they're relaxed and they want to listen versus, hey guys, don't do this. And I'm just a teacher that has no enthusiasm, in which case who's gonna listen to that? But
Right, yeah, yeah. No, no, getting people, yeah, laughter in. I think it was the works of Peter Carroll in Chaos Magic, said that you should end a ritual in which you want to disperse the energies through laughter, and laughter will disperse the energies that have weighed down the ritual and made the ritual so super serious and have kind of trapped that energy there to be directed through the ritual, through the visualizations and symbolism, etc. But at the end of it, laugh, and that'll just disperse all of the remaining energy, and it tends to work. And you can even try this in conversation when somebody's getting really super serious and they really think that they're right. Just laugh a little. You don't even have to laugh like at them. Just kind of on what you're saying. This whole topic is really silly, and most people don't like that.
oh, I can see them getting really mad about that.
Right? Yeah, but that's fine. Once again, we don't need to worry about what other people are thinking or doing or saying, but just it, the, I am seeing a lot of people, in the left hand path, but a lot of people just everywhere in the world that are really taking things super serious right now, and sure, there's deaths that are happening. Mm-hmm. It's hard to determine if we are seeing an increased number of deaths because of COVID. It's really unclear. We are seeing an increased number of suicides, that's for sure. People who have worked their entire lives to build up the mom and pop store, or are working as the newspaper boy, or whatever it is. The jobs, even if we have a menial job, a job gives people a sense of purpose. You've got to get up and do something to contribute to society in some way every day. And without that, and without any clear, here's how and when you can go back to work, without that on the table, there's a lot of hopelessness.
Yeah.
And a little laughter would do some good, but what would do even more good would be to allow people autonomy over their own destinies.
Yeah.
That has been the biggest casualty here. But yeah, and none of this is to say like the virus isn't real. I know it's real. My girlfriend, I've got this amazing girlfriend in Scotland, and she got the virus. She was gasping for breath. It was pretty horrific for a minute, but she made it through just fine, like most healthy young people do. She made it through, and it was scary, but other than being scary, wow. Glad she's young and healthy, and has her immune system in check. That's another thing. There's not much being promoted as far as how to make yourself healthier, how to vitamin D. Wow, vitamin D is one of the like underlying things in this whole COVID. Most people who are dying have vitamin D deficiency. You get vitamin D not just from milk, but from sunlight. And so while you're being told to stay indoors.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
it it is crazy. Now here's what keeps me from fully acknowledging a conspiracy here is it's got too many moving parts for the same government that can't manage the post office right. You know, to be able to like put this kind of thing together is pretty nuts. Yeah, but then again, you know, once again you look at Epstein and look at the islands and the he's got an island right next to presidents' islands and people who are running for president right now. They've got an island right around there. And this Ghislaine Maxwell lady had she was piloting submarines to go pick up children and take them to these islands supposedly, and it's like, wow, the intensity of that operation. And Epstein himself doesn't appear to be everything, anything that he says he is. Whether it's, you know, a stock trader that's going to be able to help you, you know, maximize your income. He doesn't know anything. From most people who have actually been in a room and talked to this guy and have been able to leave and give their opinion, they're like, yeah, this guy is not, he's not at all who he says he is. He's a shill of some sort, and that is worrisome with all of the government contacts, not just in the U.S. but you know, I guess in the U.K. as well. Like, this guy was tied into some of the world's biggest powers. I mean, there are so many questions that can't be asked because, you know, he committed suicide supposedly in his jail cell. But
the flags are one after another going up about these situations and these people. And like, even like the people who don't even look into that, you can bring that up. They're like, no, but like when it's actually out there. Like if that was on the news, like some real stuff going on, like even that submarine, I had no idea about the Maxwell, her and the submarine thing. That in of itself is wild. Like that right there just shows the truth. And so like it's so elaborate. And yeah, in the sense, we have to get the darkness out so we can be able to put the shed light on it, you know, to understand it. And that's the thing. I think these gateways that have been opening up are really flooding the plane, like on that level. And that's why I'm like, I don't know. It just comes to just the vision. I like to say it's just the vision on what we can be as the human race. That is such a fire, you know. And the people, because the way you see that, I resonate so much with that, and you guys are so like awesome, and that's why I'm like, I have to make sure I'm doing my own part too to be able to help to the collective, you know. I mean, for me, I'm like, what are we gonna do? Just keep like starting wars for oil, or we could really just focus on, you know, renewable energies and resources and taking care of our rainforest. I have a song coming out next week, stopping deforestation, like, and if you're gonna do it, make sure that you're doing it legally, so then that there's 3 trees getting planted for every one that's getting taken. And it's like, it's so simple in one sense on like all we really have to do. So why are we just getting chaotic going like that? It's because there's a narrative that's trying to push its thing, but now I think the pressure's gotten so intense and so many other things are now going on that they can't control, that just like the reality of, you know, like you have to be truthful and being yourself, because at the end of the day, the truth's going to come out. There's no point to hold anything. I'll show everyone all my scars, you know. I have no problem with it at all. Why? Because I know myself. And that actually, that was going to ring me right to the other question I had to write about that. I mean, there is, well, the Neuralink from Elon Musk, that thing, wow. I mean, that takes it to a whole new level. If that's going to be the big thing within 5 to 10 years, and everyone's connected on that level, then there can't be anything hidden because it's all out there. Now, that kind of gets scary into the sense, okay, there was a podcast, another one you had with Orally, where you guys were talking about Herbarium Diabolicum, which would definitely have to touch that. And there was a point, I've never done this before. I had to stop it and really breathe into what you said. So when there's these different realities all going on around us all at once. And I think it was dimethyltryptomethylene. Wow, guys, really good at pronouncing things. Dimethyltryptamine. When you have so much, it felt like something, like you're being worked on around. Like there was something touching you. Like you were actually laying down in a bed, thing like that. And when I thought about that in a Neuralink, I thought, and like what Elon Musk had said, like how it's almost you can play back your life, play back things. And I started thinking to myself, what happens if we're all plugged into a machine? And when they say we're all one, it's because we're connected to one machine. And to be woke is to know that. And then once we all know that, we can be unplugged from the machine. And that, I just got chills. And when I thought about that, it was the most unsettling. And even I think you said in the video, it's an unsettling feeling. I feel like I could barely breathe when I thought about that. And so I kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on that. And do you think that we're plugged in something? Or if it's just like things are so divine as what it is? Or that it's just a ton of different realities that are overlaying each other and that could be one of the realities?
Ooh.
I know that was a big one.
You know, in a conversation I was having with D.H. Thorne, he put it really, really well that we are everything that is focusing all of ourselves in the way that we would interact with our reality. We're focusing that through this lens of this person with these perceptions and beliefs and senses, etc. And so this person is a window that everything is looking through. And I think that's more accurate. That it's much more than just playing a game or a simulation, that we are these same beings or same types of beings that are plugged into a false reality that we're not aware of. And that's a little too
Matrix movie.
Matrix movie, a little too, like, it's a great symbol or a metaphor for the what's really going on, but it's a little clunky. It relies too much on current understanding of things, current technology. My thought is with Neuralink, this is going to give us access to things that we have previously never needed technology for. Telepathy and being able to, and telepathy is not necessarily speaking through thought, but it's transferring your intention or your idea instantaneously to someone. It's airdrop your mind to somebody else's mind. And boom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the technology is going to be awesome because it's going to allow everybody to have access to this and to remember this is who we are. Like we weren't really disconnected before, but we thought we were.
Yeah.
And so we believed that so intensely that now we need this other mechanism that can help us reestablish that. And then my thought is, give it a couple of generations and then that device isn't needed anymore. It is scary. I would be concerned, and I am concerned about moving away from the natural world.
Yeah.
Assuming that this is natural, moving away from that into something that's preferred. That we've poisoned this world so much that now we need to escape into an artificial world. And now, if this is just a layer of artificial, it's best that we not keep jumping into these Pandora's boxes and stretching our artificial realities out. It's best if we figure out what we're doing here. Especially before Elon Musk's other baby, being Mars colonization. Before we start colonizing other planets, we've got to figure out what we did here, what we're doing here, and how we're going to fix it. And because we cannot take this to other worlds.
No,
those aren't our worlds to take to fuck up, really.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt, because if we don't have a foundation onto this planet, then we're just going to let other things that, more stuff that they're going to try and hide underneath the table. We're not going to be truthful. And then that's going to cause a whole undermine of problems. And that's the thing. So like with the Neuralink, it's like, so someone couldn't see, or let's say your arm gets chopped off in an incident. To get a robot arm like Star Wars, or to put something in your head so you can get fixed. I think that's awesome. But there's that line where it's like, how far are we going to go with this? Because if we're dependent on this for telepathy or something like that, then maybe someone's gonna stop wanting to grow in that natural way in the first place. And I feel like as a human race, if we just focused in on those type of principles, like being taught the right things in school, being taught about our spiritual selves in school, as well as taking care of the earth, pick up the trash. And if we do all these things, then we're going to be able to grow as the human race in a great direction versus just in having this crutch. Now I need to be plugged into this. Wow, could someone hack into this? And it adds these undermining things. And, don't get me wrong, everything I've seen on Elon Musk has been awesome. I think he's totally great. But the thing is that the lens I'm supposed to be projecting? Or is there maybe something undermined trying to go on behind it? And I was talking to my brother about it because as soon as I heard that the podcast with him and Joe Rogan, I was like, man, would I do it? Like right now, if it came out. And my brother said is you'd want to do it on the up curve of it because then there's the people that do things right when things start. And then they're going to be so far ahead to where it's like, or am I just going to be playing catch up this whole time? Or am I going to be like how my dad was when it came to the smartphones and he had a flip phone his whole life? And I had a flip phone till 3 years ago. Like I waited and waited. Now I was like, I want to be, I want to really push the music. So now I need it. So it's like where and what's being guided here. And we need to be attuned with nature, but technology as well to a high level. But it's the perfect balance. So, I mean, I can't say I know the perfect codes and all that, but I do know too much of the technology, then we're just becoming a robot ourselves, and that loses that human nature element.
Yeah. For if you really want to get into contact with spirits, my advice is to go into the wilderness until you can't hear electricity buzzing. And most people aren't aware that you can hear electricity buzzing, but you can. If there's a power pole anywhere around you or a transformer at all, you can hear it. And get outside of the range of that, so you'll be in actual wilderness, and you're going to find a lot more spirits are there. A lot more. The energy is just crisp. It's ancient. It's been produced. It's like a cauldron that's been producing magic forever.
Yeah.
And now it's absolutely concerning that those spaces are not as available as they used to be, and they're nature is becoming extinct. And then even with the satellite grid that Musk is doing, where he's launching ridiculous numbers of satellites to be able to give you the fastest internet no matter where you're at in the world. And now that kind of
Yeah.
that feels like that interferes with the sanctity of nature, even. I don't like. I mean, I like it because I like progress and I like technology, and my whole business model is built on the evolution of technology. But I really enjoy being able to switch it off and go into nature, go out and play in a river and not worry about all the stuff that's not really real.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, the news, and you said earlier that we've got the TV boxes that are feeding us information, and the social media is feeding us information. It's concerning when what I'm seeing on any news station and on anybody's feed in these social media outlets is not representative of what I see when I go outside. When I go talk to my neighbor, when I go to the local, and I'll tell you what, I have gotten really, really invested in local. A lot of local shopping is going on now. As COVID's been erupting, it's like, well, all right, the meat plants are having a hard time giving us quality clean food. My local butcher isn't. He's got the farm right there. He's got the cows that he's turning into steaks, and he's got the milk that he's churning there to turn into cheese, and all of that is available at the local grocer. It's not available at the box store.
Yeah.
And so that they're oh well, and even with that, I so I I've noticed as I've gotten older and older and older that dairy doesn't sit as well with me as it used to. I've got a little bit of like lactose intolerance that's coming in. If I drink raw milk, not a problem because it has the enzymes, it has the bacteria that your body is struggling to compensate for because it is trying to break down something that's not naturally decomposing. And raw milk, for the most part, is illegal in most places you go. So at the local store, they sell it there, and it's kind of like almost like a black market. Like, hey, we hope nobody notices this, but here's some raw milk. And it's like, wow, that's nuts that raw milk is illegal. Child rape on islands by the world's elite, not so bad. That's getting
Yeah.
prosecuted. They don't, not too many questions are asked about that, but God forbid if you have any of that raw milk. So it doesn't necessarily make sense. And one kind of maybe my only real thought to leave the pedophilia conversation is it is it's unthinkable to me what reward is there for any elite or anybody else. I mean, if you most people who are child predators and child abusers were abused as children, and so I can see the pattern of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are not able to control themselves, whatever, all kinds of stuff that could be healed if we just insist no child abuse at all. But like outside of people being driven by compulsions that they don't understand, that they're not conscious of, with that aside, I don't know what the value would be. Like as a left hand path magician, there's no value in harming a child magically or in any other way. And so it's confusing to me that the elite would be involved in that because it just doesn't make sense. Like there's no, I don't understand the value.
To make what they're okay with hurting an elite so they can look younger, or they can.
Well, is that the thing? Because I've heard that like they're eating these children or whatever, so they can take their youth and such. I've heard that thrown out there. But I don't know, like harming children or the pedophilia and all of that. Like, is there an end goal that they're trying to achieve through that, or is it just like sickness passed on generationally?
And that's when I said that, like the adrenochrome. I don't know if like that's the case. It's like so you're willing to go that far so you can keep your look on this outside, but it's like what are you doing to your inside? And I think that's where it's all twisted. Just like the wars between all of us and everything else, everything's so inverted. Or when people say Christianity, the way of freedom, it's so inverted. And like that's the crazy part. That's the thing that's like once you really start diving into things, you start seeing the polarity and how things are really getting pulled this angle. And that's kind of the hard part. It's like, wow, I have to now soak that in, get that through, and not everyone sees it as that, but that's what it is. Then you can start making progress through that. But that's one hell of a pill to take, man. That's the truth pill of the kick.
Well, like by living true to yourself, you eliminate stress. You produce all these amazing body chemicals that start actually reversing a lot of aging. That most yogis that I know do not look their age. They look a good. Some of them I know a guy that's like at this point he's got to be 55 to 60 years old and he looks 20.
What?
Yogi, he's a vegan yogi, and just lives and breathes happiness and light he walks on clouds all the time and his aging isn't really an issue. And so it's like there are ways if that is the goal that they're after with harming children, there are a lot of ways that you can do that pretty holistically. That you can preserve your looks, and then there's the other aspect of like, you also have to just own what you are, own what you've got. I can't grow a really massive beard, and so I rock the fuck out of my goatee. It's what I've got, and you got to take what you've got and use it. And so like by the time I'm aging, I really hope to have a full wizard look, and I'm gonna own the fuck out of it. But to look in the mirror and go, that's I need to eat children to make this look better. There's like such a deep sickness that's there, or for any reason to look at a child for I can use them to get this and it'll hurt them and it'll benefit me. That doesn't add up in my mind.
I think there's a blackmail element to it, to where it's like you want to join this club, because within the music industry, I know, especially the rap, there's a lot, not all of them, but there's a lot that's like it's very homosexual in nature, where it's like a blackmail homosexual. I'm not hitting on people who will like what they like, do what you will, but it's like, oh, you're gonna do this, and then you're gonna stay inside of our bind, and we're gonna keep things on the low, and it's like, I think there's just a lot of underground blackmail, and I think that's where it's all kind of coming from and stemming from. I'm gonna have this power over you, so you're gonna do what we want. And to me, that's not freedom. That's why it's like, to be an artist myself, I'm my own label. I don't want to get involved with anyone else in their stuff. I'm going to do what I want to do on my own and rise above. Because if you're too busy being attached to someone else, not something else, there's everything that's come with that attachment. And that's homie, don't play that. Homie, don't play that.
Yeah. Well, even there there's no need for a label. Like, especially at this point, like, what do you need a label for? So they can print your CDs? I mean, who's printing CDs?
Yeah, I know it's pretty serious.
Yeah, no, and I could see maybe having a manager that could line up, tour dates and stuff for you, that kind of thing. That could be useful, but actually have a label, it really is just. It's like acquiescing to an authority that's not really an authority. It's like if I could have at many points along the development of my career gone and gotten I don't even know what it's called because I'm not even bothered with it. An agent, go get a literary agent that could shop my stuff around and get me better deals. My deal is pretty freaking great. I got no complaints about my deal. And even before I made a single dime at what I was doing, I still loved what I was doing, and I was happy, really happy doing cabinetry, and it was all perfect. I wasn't looking for a better deal. I was looking for reality, and yeah. There's a whole lot of the people trying to usurp the efforts of other people, unjustly so. So.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna look at the chat real quick here because I've kind of went over that. Conquer and divide. This is from Irish Lila 2. Conquer and divide, the oldest control tactic in the book. Yep, he got that right. And Jafar says he has his Kingdom of Flame and Book of Azazel scrying mirrors on the table right now. So, and this guy asks, Dead Doulos DX, if I destroyed your name, have a great day. I apologize. I didn't mean it. What are some demons the pedos and evil elites work with? Surely they don't work our demons like Belial, Lucifer, or Maimon. Well, we kind of touched up on something like that. I personally believe it's the egregor of the beings that Christianity has. If you make everyone's focus on this religion in this group, then the beliefs in it you're going to empower. So you're basically building up an army with the thought forms and all that. So I just think that that's what they're doing. And so then these other spirits are in a whole different lane, the actual beings of contact that are the ones to contact. So I think it's just an illusionary war, and that's who they keep using.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's really not even that clever. Like, there are a lot of really clever ways to swing the watch in front of people and get them to do whatever you want. and the game that they're playing is not that clever. And really a good deal of it is that even when you look at the advent or the birth of Christianity as being a concoction of the Roman government to distract people from the fact that specifically to distract Jews, and then the people who were kind of like undecided about their religion, and those were the lowest class at that point, and they're looking at that going, well, we're not providing anything that the government ought to provide its people. We're not really protecting them. We're not empowering them. They're going to rise up pretty soon, so let's give them something to focus on. That something is, here's this whole Jesus myth, and the end result of that is that if you jump through all the hoops perfectly, that you can have this reward in the next life. So don't worry about your suffering now. Don't cry about that at all, because you're going to be rewarded in the next life. The more you suffer here, actually, the greater your reward will be after. And that whole philosophy, that does seem to be that egregor of tyranny, of don't worry about what the wizard's doing behind the curtain, and don't worry about all the fake wars that are going on, and the all of this that is so obvious. Just worry about where you're going next. And my whole thought, I call this the anti-transmigration of the soul. That most people think that they're here and they're going to move on to something better that's a higher dimension. Well, when you travel these higher dimensions, you've already been there. You descended into this physical reality from those higher dimensions. So that's not progress to go back to that. That's like going back to live with mom after you got your degree and a job and everything's great. That's not really progress. You want to go expand, create your own reality, and in a very literal way, create your own reality. Become a god yourself in the physical world and expand from here. This is like the undiscovered, unmastered reality that we're supposed to be interacting with. So yeah, the egregor of it, not only an egregor that they pray to, because I don't know that too many of the elites take prayer or even ritual that seriously. I think they kind of pay lip service to it because it's part of the whole gig. But it's more just like the idea that the right hand path presents of, you suffer now, you'll be rewarded later. And it's a huge distraction.
It's just not healthy. I mean, now I look back when I was hardcore into the Catholicism, going to someone else, so then I can be able to talk to God, have my sins cleansed off 3 times a week, and anytime I think of something lustful, thinking, all right, now this bad thing's gonna happen to me because I was thinking this. Oh no, God forbid I touched myself. Oh boy. Uh-oh. I better make sure I drive there safely, so if I die on my way, it's like that is the most fear as well as self-hating. And that's the biggest thing. I think it's so self-hating. And when a religion makes you feel like that, it doesn't make you want to really stay inside of it. Now there's just like, Christianity and Islam, and there's what's in Hinduism. There are teachings, and it's like almost like a history lesson. There's a lot of things to learn. Like a flood did happen. I completely agree that happened. And I also agree there were giants and other alien beings that are not only there then, but I believe they're here now, and that's hidden. Like there's actually giant skeletons and stuff from like the 1800s. They were having stuff come up, and it wasn't until past like probably 70 years that all the things of finding these big bones have been covered up. They don't want people to know about it, and it's like, why are you guys trying to cover up the truth of there's other things going on out there? Or aliens. Now they're finally saying, yeah, there is some things we've seen we don't know. But as the truth goes forward, it's going to be like, we've been in contact with this race. There's more than one race. In fact, I think we already have been out doing space travel. And now we're just kind of letting the people all be like, okay, it's okay if we do that. Oh, we already are on Mars. Oh, we're already like... There's already things, and it's like us thinking we're progressively going on, but things have already happened, and it's just trying to make a realization to that. And that's, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, at least for me, it seems like it's obvious that there are non that there are entities that are very intelligent that are not part of our species, that are somehow interacting with us, whether that's like transdimensionally or astrally in some way. Uh, it uh, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that they would travel from another planet in a metal ship to get here, but maybe they would. I don't know. Like they wouldn't do it conventionally by going from point A to point B. They would find some way of folding space and just
Boom, boom,
living.
boom. Yeah.
Yeah, because that is what it seems like they do in the sky. I mean, I see these things from time to time, and the obviously trained observers like Air Force pilots see these things just bouncing all over the place. And so if they can do that, they can probably fold much larger gaps of space. But regardless, that there's a huge mystery around aliens and UFOs and all of that it's concerning to me as the governments, and it's not just the United States, because the UK has started putting out their own disclosure. All these governments, especially right now, while everybody's really distracted, that it's just getting
Yeah.
leaked kind of quietly. But none of the governments appear to know much more than you and I. That's that's actually concerning. If that's true, if they don't know what's going on, it's like, oh man, they're really just trying to cover up their ignorance. In which case, crowdfund it. I mean, or
Yeah.
crowdsource it. Just say, hey, help us solve this riddle. What the hell is going on here? And then we can actually all work together. Um, but yeah, there is definitely something. There's something there. Um, that something also tends to intersect with a lot of other mysteries, giants and Nephilim and Bigfoot and poltergeist activity. All of these things seem to kind of crisscross into one central common thing, and I haven't cracked it because I've narrowed my research into one specific field, but it does seem like that one thing has to do intensely with how the individual perceives and interacts with reality.
Mm.
When you get, especially when you start getting into conversations with anybody that's had a face-to-face encounter with extraterrestrials, at first it sounds pretty pretty standard. Okay, you saw the bright light, and then it's a metal ship, and um, then you saw an owl, but that owl wasn't really an owl. That owl was actually one of these beings. And then you heard a wolf, but that wolf wasn't actually a wolf. It was one of these beings. Okay, some really common things that lead to this point of in almost like an instantaneous increase in absurdity that it goes every one of these one of close encounter cases just tips over the edge really fast. That they're seeing human figures in uniform, usually either in uniform or in suits that are like fashioned from like the 1940s, like the men in black from that era, are interacting with multiple species, and then in some cases these aliens try to overwhelm the person, and in one case I was reading about this fellow and his wife had these like insect red glowing eyed aliens that are just scattering towards them in the middle of the desert, and overtake them and sexually abuse the couple and torture them in every single way, and then drop them off without a scar or any evidence at all. And it's like, wow, that is super absurd. And almost all the cases get really absurd. It's like, how far can we push your observation of reality till you snap, till you maybe until you go, well, none of this is real. Because if what you're seeing with the aliens seems as real as what you encounter when you go to work on Tuesday, then yeah, maybe it's all just kind of bogus. I don't know. But yeah, no, there is definitely there is something very real going on there, and like you said earlier, this is like a moment of revelation that we're starting to see. We're starting to see what we haven't seen before. What we've ignored, what's been hidden from us, is starting to be pretty clear, or
Yeah.
at least clear enough that we can see that we hadn't seen it before.
Definitely. And actually, the other night I did a. So I've had like different phases working with the master key. So I just did just work with the key and with different things. And then I did work with spirits empowered by the key and any watcher. And then the third one, actually, I have one more ritual I have to do tonight where I'm actually going to a forest. So now I'm actually super stoked about all that. But I went on my back porch and I got the stars and everything because I'm like right out in the country because who wants to live in the city? I just don't like any of that. And I called upon the Andromedans and I was like, if you can hear me, please show me you're here. And then it was almost like I had taken shrooms and they kicked in all the way with the vibrant colors. That was what my mind's eye was seeing of like these really bright beings, like just talking to me saying you are like doing what you were called and sent to do, and it was getting really trippy. And then when I looked up, way directly above me there was this big shiny like just round ball just going in a circle, and then it would stop and then go in a different weird direction, just like kind of figure eights and everything way above. And I was like, so is this a direct communication of it coming down? Is this an illusion? What's real? But then at the end of the day, if I saw Bigfoot walking, through a portal and then into another portal, it's like, did that just happen right now?
Mhm.
So I don't know. It was just really cool, but I knew that was kind of a part of my whole. I'm trying to figure. I guess obviously trying to figure it out's a part of the whole fun. Looking for the truth is what it's all about, and yeah, it's just aliens. There's something connected there. I mean, I think as time goes forward, we'll be able to figure it out. But here, I'll give a couple more questions. Are you good to the top of the hour?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Definitely. I appreciate it again. As always, I'm
No, it's always fun chatting with you. So yeah,
downloads, man. Downloads.
oh yeah.
So one of your videos you put, we become earthbound when it says demons that transform earthbound. Now I don't know if that makes any sense or if I decided to write that out of nowhere, but I think it was as we become more empowered we become earthbound. Does that ring any bell, or does that just kind of sound like
Um, well, I mean, I guess that kind of hints back towards the anti-transmigration of the soul. That uh, you know, mm, so on one hand, you got to look at all the titles that go into everything I do is filtered through clickbait, and saying
yeah.
what can we do to get people to click to get our message out there, and yeah, so I'm sure Timothy played with my original title of things and made it more clicky, which
Thumbnails?
yeah, exactly. So, um, but as we like I said before, we're not here by accident. I actually feel like we're here as part of our destiny, and also part of our inheritance is and inheritance might not be the right word, but the legacy that has been left us not only by our ancestors but also by the powers that be that seem to have seeded us on this planet. um, we're not here on accident. We're here because we pushed ourselves here. We've incarnated as a singularity, not just an omnipresent, uh, but omnipresence focused into a laser, and then put into this body to be able to perceive and interact with reality through this singularity, and then not just bound to that, but also able to go into all other dimensions, all other realms. When you start soul traveling intensely, you start noticing that you're not ever coming back to your physical body. You're always in all of those states at once. It's just what you're turning your attention
Mhm.
to. And so yeah, we're being earthbound. I don't like that. I don't like that term. I can see why it's clickbaity and why it was probably selected, but um, but we become we become manifest, and we become more manifest. Right now we do think of ourselves as being very physical beings, yet I really do exist, and I can say that I exist, so therefore I exist. um, there's even more solidity that can be achieved, solidity to the point that maybe you don't leave this world, maybe you don't need to die and be reincarnated. um, I've worked with several beings who do seem to be impervious to death and to aging and whatnot. They seem to have transfigured themselves entirely and are able to blip into reality whenever they want. Possibly this is something that we also can do and become full masters of the physical space and our physical being. That would be really cool. And so yeah, and I wouldn't say earthbound, but I would say more masters of the physical plane.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Because when I thought about Earthbound, I was like, well, dang, what happens if I just want to be a ghost, be Casper, and go fly over to Venus? You know what I mean?
Can't do it. You can't do it.
you're not allowed. You're not allowed anymore. Yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. No, but yeah, we are nexions. We are gateways between all the worlds. We're omnidimensional beings that we are omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient, and we're filtering that through a very interesting, fine lens of our being interacting with what we think is outside reality.
Yeah. Oh, and that's, I mean, that's the best part of it all, man. So you got to see it with that magical eye, man.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Hey, if any of you have any questions in the chat, please go ahead and ask. I'm sorry, I'm very my ADHD is pretty under control, but you guys can kick it up a notch here. Let me read any of these. Holy smokes! I can't say but it's. Uh.
Oh man, my camera like fuzzy on me. It's like,
Oh
oh wow,
man. Oh no. Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Maybe you gotta do some slap noises, some seal noises. I don't know.
All right, well, mm, whatevs.
Yeah, it is what it is. That's what an ancient philosopher would say, man. It is what it is.
Mhm.
I was taught Beelzebub, so I didn't call him forth. It just got good again.
Cool.
I didn't call him forth, but he kept popping up, and I knew it was him because it was the biggest fly in the world. And he kept flying in my truck constantly, and then he was just communicating. And I was like, "What's up, man?" And he actually wanted me to freestyle a lot. So because it pulls me out of a funk, like kind of like a, "Oh, I'm at work, blah blah blah," and he's like, "Let loose, do that." And that weekend, I ended up learning if you don't take care of the temple, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning. If you don't take care of your temple, well, that's adequate sleep, eating the right food, or whatever you're doing, then you start to rot. And that was something I was finding out oh, I'm staying up too late. I can't push forward. Now I can't even do my meditation. I'm waking up in the morning, instead of doing alms, I'm doing these let's just stay awake to even sit up in the first place. And to always keep yourself constant in the flow of the cleanse, because if you keep the water steady water makes disease. You have to be that flow, that river, keep going forward. And I guess my way to turn it to a question was that kind of something Big taught to you? He kind of showed you when you were working with him.
Ooh, Beelzebub particularly. First off, the appearance as a fly is like crazy real. Like every time I've worked with them, all of a sudden, doesn't matter what time of year it is or anything, what time of day it is, there'll be a fly buzzing right around me. And yeah, my first instinct is like, get out of here! I'm trying to communicate with Beelzebub. I'm being distracted by this damn fly. But pretty quickly, there's Beelzebub, and so yeah, that is like a very literal association that does happen. But so the short answer is no, but that's not necessarily what I was reaching out to Beelzebub for. one of the first things I asked for is the ability to control the minds and the will and emotions of others, to get people to do my will instead of theirs. And he said, well, and he showed me some simple, not even rituals, but like gathering sea. I went up to Salt Lake, the Great Salt Lake, to the salt flats there, where you can pick up just salt. I mean, just handfuls of salt. And so he had me take this in my hands and focus on the desire that I wanted, and then drop it out of my hands and let it fall, and whatever. And I don't know that that was a ritual or a magical practice, more than just like almost like a distraction. Like, here, do this with your hands while I actually teach you what you need to know. And so while I'm doing this ritual, he says, you don't need to compel others against their will. Just tell people what your vision is. Tell them what your plan is and how they can help you, and you're going to find that you have plenty of help. So he kind of circumvented the whole the intention of like, hey, I want to control other people. And he's like, you actually don't need that. Just gain before you can actually tell anybody about your vision, you have to first get really clear on your vision. It comes back to the imagination you were talking about earlier. You actually have to imagine what the house looks like before you can have it built. You have to imagine what your future could be before you can step into it. And so imagine the vision, get it really clear and compelling to the point that you want to tell other people, that you are compelled to tell other people your vision, and you'll have a lot of help. Maybe not everybody. And at that moment, at that time, what I was really secretly thinking was, how can I control my ex-girlfriend now? Because I could see that the relationship was falling apart, and it's like, how can I hold on to that? And he's like, don't worry about it. You'll have the right people in place as you need it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
cool. And then the second thing was to be able to control the health of others, to be able to give them health, or to take their health away. And for that, there was a simple, Beelzebub gave me his talon, and so it was like my right hand turned into like a talon, just straight up a raptor's talon that was huge and black and hideous looking. And says, you just reach into somebody's heart and either push life into them or take life away, and it'll be done. Okay, cool. I have not yet used that. I don't necessarily see, I haven't had anybody piss me off so bad. I don't know. I don't really, I kind of, it's interesting that I would even ask that, because baneful magic is not really a huge concern of mine, but nevertheless, it seemed like something to ask him. And now I can't remember the third thing. Just revelations. Tear the veils so I can see the other worlds with perfect clarity, and with, for that, it was basically like, hey, you've already got that, and it's not a matter of looking into the other worlds, but being firmly where you're at now, and then everything converges right there. Okay, cool. So he almost like circumvented the direct answers by giving me the more transcendental answers, but no, I actually didn't. I didn't get much like personal health and wellness information from Beelzebub, although he would be a great one to talk to about that. But that actually didn't come until Baal, where Baal was like, all right, I know you don't care about taking care of your body for the sake of taking care of your body, but if you do, here's your result in your empire. Oh, okay, cool. I'll do anything for my empire,
Yeah.
much more for my empire than I will for myself. So yeah, but 100% was you, paying attention to all the things in your life that you normally wouldn't, that you would kind of put on autopilot. You wake up, and most of us like to wake up and eat something pretty quickly, or have a cup of coffee, and we have a ritual, a routine that we get into, that we tell ourselves is essential, that we can't start our day without this. We can't function without our coffee or without. And so part of that was to start doing intermittent fasting. That came up multiple times. Like, hey, you don't need to eat Try spending it 14, 16 hours between dinner and breakfast. Oh, okay, cool. I can do that. That's not hard at all, actually. My body seems to function a lot better on that kind of routine. And then when you are eating, be intentional. A lot of these things do come down to clarifying your intention and just asking yourself over and over and over again, what is my intention? So as you're preparing food, what's my intention? Yeah, and sometimes the intention is, well, I feel pain or I feel not good and I want to escape, and so hopefully this food or drink is going to bring me that escape. And if you can be intentional about it, have the food or drink, have your Twinkies or your whiskey or whatever, but know why you're doing it and set the intention
Mm.
and go forth intentionally. And you'll usually find that there's not a whole lot of room in your intentional field for Twinkies and whiskey. And when there is, it's intentionally.
Yeah, everything you're doing with the intent. I mean, that was kind of on your poison path. You know, I'm gonna definitely be ordering that. I'm very
Yeah,
excited, very excited, and just like being intent about when you're doing something. If I'm gonna go drop LSD, it's not do this and let's go see what happens, because then you end up in crazy situations, and I've been in way too many situations where it's like, all right, you wanted the magical experience, but you weren't set up for it. And then, like, if you just kind of do things in a routine without thinking about it, then there's like really no point. Like those bedtime prayers as a kid. I said the same words over and over all the time. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm happy I said let me grow and learn wisdom, because I think I was granted that one. But when there's no intent behind it, it's like there's nothing going on. Or okay, hey, I'll take when you're ordering something off a menu. Just I'll take this, nothing behind it, versus giving it a full go and really, embodying that. Even if you're being ridiculous in the coffee line, yelling,
yeah.
"Hey, I'm taking that coffee!" I remember that in the last chat. That was so funny.
Yeah. No, well, and yeah, being just really being intentional, going all in, and being ridiculous is not bad. Like
Hmm.
I don't know. I guess maybe if you're not, I don't know, even if you're not a ridiculous type of person, like it does you some good to be ridiculous and to see how amplified you can make everything, and then everything becomes equally silly. And that's when it's really fun. It's like, yeah, oh, okay, yeah, that's right. None of this actually does matter. It's like, reminds me of a lot of Alan Watts. Of you, you're not playing the music that you're playing in the orchestra in order to get to the end. If you're just trying to get to the end, it would just be a blah, 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 bunch of noise and then boom, you're done.
Yeah.
But you're actually trying to feel the music and produce an emotional connectedness and communicate things that can't be put into words, and all of this over this course of time that's just beautiful and perfect for that composition. It's like dancing, when you're dancing, you're not just trying to get to the end of the dance. And a lot of times I think, especially in Western culture, we're focused on the
And
destination as being, once again, really real.
yeah. And if the journey's really what it is, that's the evolution of the whole process. I mean, geez, getting to these capstones, yeah, I can't wait to get to this level on that. But if I just had it right now, then I want to be who I am, and honestly, that then put me in a bad position from where I would be, and that's. I mean, that's a riddle me that, but that's what it is. There's a question: who is more powerful, the Hindu supreme god Brahma or the JCL god Jehovah? I personally don't. I've not worked with many Hindu gods, and Jehovah hadn't done anything, anything but made me not like myself. So, I wouldn't say he had much power.
Well, yeah, so Brahma is unique and is evidence to be possibly more powerful than the Abrahamic God, because the Abrahamic God, every single miracle that's performed after creation, every single miracle that happens after that is conduited through a human being.
Mm.
So God doesn't, uh, smite Sodom and Gomorrah and turn them into salt piles on his own, he looks to Lot and says, "Okay, Lot, you're the appointed one, and when you say so, when you say that these cities are damned, then my power will come through." And God doesn't part the Red Sea until Moses holds his hands out, and I mean, judging from the movie I saw, or the clip I've seen from the movie, he's got his red robe on and he's holding his arms out, and so I imagine that must have been how it went. But it required Moses to do that action and Noah to do his actions to create that change. Now, on the other side of it, with Brahma, there are very clear mythologies and stories of Brahma and all of the Vedic gods and demons gathered here in the physical world on Earth, throwing lightning bolts at each other that create mushroom clouds and flying in these in flying machines, like flying vehicles that are usually like 1 or 2 person vehicles that they just kind of scurry around in these saucers, and really really crazy descriptions of these gods being physically present and acting on their own accord with their own power to create change. So that is whether that makes them more. I would say that makes them more powerful. They're more capable in this world without a medium.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. That was one of the things they made. I think it was Brahma. Now I could be wrong, but we're just gonna go with Brahma. Made an army of these monkeys, these like monkey humanoids, to build this bridge. And when you go back in time, like just like that concept of him bringing that together, that could be Homo sapiens before we had the consciousness, whatever we have. But that shows more of a being here in the physical, and that's actually I kind of one of my next steps after knowing this, working with the key, which I'm gonna keep working with it, but I want to dive in and figure out more of that because I'm seeing they were here in a physical and there's ships and stuff going on here, and people talk about inner earth beings like stuff on Gaia and such on that, and saying that there's these blue beings in the core of the earth. And I'm like, okay, there's a lot of overlap and a lot of truth, and who are they and what do they care for humankind? What's kind of their thoughts towards all of it? And instead of seeing it as a god, like, I mean, the Goetia and all the other spirits, they're all exist and everything else, but it's a different type of form. I mean, maybe they were in a physical form here on the earth before. I don't personally know. I mean, the thing with King Paimon and Atlantis, him being the king there, now that's another thing to dive into, but it's like, what is and what has gone on, and like what even happened to Atlantis? Was it blown up from the future wars, or did they just all descend into, they elevated out of this consciousness into its own thing? There's so many mysteries, and it's like, why are we with that ancient technology? The stuff that we have now kind of almost seems, kind of lame comparatively, and it's like, if that was back then and it was that intense, is the Star Wars movies real? Because way back in a time far, far away, they have all these technologies. I'm like, really? Like, what is going on? What is the truth? So I would definitely say Brahma's more powerful. I guess that wraps that question like that.
Yeah. And to give you a little stepping stone in that future research, I would definitely suggest that you check out Michael Tsarion.
Okay.
He's an alternate historian, and so we have a model that supposes that our species is pretty young, and sites like Göbekli Tepe have really uncovered that we're much older than we thought we were, and so that presupposition is gone, and then also that there was an east to west migration, so humankind and human civilization sprung up in the East, being Africa and Asia and the Middle East is kind of the convergence spot. And that after it sprung up, that people migrated from there west. Well, there are enough ruins and then looking at the mythologies and the stories that suggest that before the cradle of civilization in the East occurred, that people existed all over the planet, and so there was actually a west to east and then an east to west migration. So there's like a cyclical pattern that's being ignored. Like when we look right now and we see global warming. Um, Global warming is probably influenced by human behavior and whatnot, but we're, our planet is always going through different cycles of
Mm-hmm.
freezing and thawing and freezing and thawing, and we're we're taking notes for long enough time that we're going, oh, look at this, it's warming up. Well, okay, that's what it does. Not to undermine global warming and our potential impact in that, but um, that there's like a covering up or a refusal to look at these cyclical patterns, like the west to east, east to west, um, and yeah, they're absolutely. It, well, see, I'm going to make these absolute statements, but like for me, like aliens absolutely exist and they're absolutely like here interacting with us somehow, and there absolutely was some civilization that predated ours, an intelligent civilization that I mean, Göbekli Tepe is nuts. That it's just this potbelly hill that people go walk their dogs on until a dog falls in and finds that it's this multi-layered temple that predates anything that we found in Egypt or Samaria, and makes me kind of look at the mountains around me and go, well, what are these temples too? You know, how far do we have to dig to really start finding that there's an entire civilization that we're standing on top of?
Mm-hmm.
And as far as like the blue gods in the center of the earth, hollow earth theory is interesting. It also has a lot of conflicting resources. You know, Admiral Byrd. They say that Admiral Byrd was up in the Arctic Circle and flew his plane into a cavern that allowed him access into the hollow earth, and he explored that and took detailed notes. Well, at the same time that he supposedly was doing that, he was on an expedition to Antarctica, and so both stories can't really be true. Both are kind of put out there. Oh yeah, he went to Antarctica and he saw something crazy there that made him say, you know, we should never go back there. Okay, maybe that's true. Or he went into the hollow earth on the other pole of the world.
Yeah.
There's a lot that doesn't add up with hollow earth, but an interesting idea, and you can't really write anything off. I don't necessarily know. I would lean away from these beings being physically incarnate now, but I would love to be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, it would be pretty cool to go see Shiva popping up out of nowhere, but that'd be crazy.
Oh
It's
yeah.
super crazy. And I mean, that's the thing. Like, when it comes to there's the conspiracy theories, and then there's facts, you know. And I like looking into all that. Like, I mean, I even looked into flat Earth for a while, but that just doesn't make any sense. Like, if we're shooting off satellites up into space, how can you really hide? Like, if you're shooting all that, hey, millions of people, shh, don't say anything.
Right. Yeah. No. Well, and the fact that our like last night, so we've got this Neowise comet that's shooting by us, and so last night I went and got my sky map and got my telescope. Went, there it is. Okay, cool. Looked up at the sky, I could see the tail. All right, awesome. My ability to use a telescope to look up in the sky and see stars shouldn't be possible if we're on a flat Earth. You know,
Yeah.
if that the firmament is yeah, it doesn't make sense for like the largest and most in-depth sciences we have, nor for the smallest, most, you know, mundane, take a telescope and look up at the stars. It just doesn't add up.
Yeah. Now, the moon itself, I don't know what that is, but well, hopefully we'll soon find out. I just heard that there's some ships that when they'd land, the moon itself had vibrated like a gong for like 30 minutes, and that's questionable. And, you know, what the gatekeepers saying, they helped us like evolve and all that. You know, with the tides and the waves, and then having the moon maybe make a certain type of vegetation and stuff, I could see how something like that could be created, you know, placed there. Obviously, I don't know personally, and I've not actually gone there. I mean, that's actually something I should also add on my list, try and see that. But then they're going to see that I see, and that's okay, because we'll see what happens. But, you know,
The, at one point, I soul traveled to the moon, and I soul traveled to most of the planets in order to access different clefothic or cephalic spheres. And in discussions with people who were throwing out the idea of, what is the moon really? It's not what it appears to be. What is it really? And go see if you can find out. So I'm like, I'll go check it out. With that intention in my mind, I went there and saw a machine. That it's a machine. That's, you can see it as being hollow, but it's not. It's filled with all sorts of operations that are occurring there. The spin of it being timed and pushed about by actual swinging arm mechanisms and whatever. Now,
Wow.
that could be complete bullshit.
but still.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it gets. Soul travel is really great for exploring higher realms. It's a little fuzzy for gathering data, and you can gather data, through remote viewing and such. You can gather actionable information for sure. But when you go, for instance, when you're doing remote viewing, you want to have your target, you want to have your subject that's doing the remote viewing not know what their target is or what the intention is. So you give them a number, just a string of numbers. Here, you're going to view target such and such and such. And then you'll start doing your remote viewing, seeing what you're seeing, writing a picture on one side of the paper and little descriptive words on the other, and come up with this machine. It's a big orb machine. If they knew they were looking at the moon to find out if it was something other than what it appears to be, then you kind of led them halfway to that conclusion.
Yeah.
And so I do take that experiment, and most experiments where I'm like having fun trying to validate some silly idea, you got to take everything with a grain of salt. I mean, the fact that you're even communicating over these computers is like a silly delusion that we're using for our advantage.
I mean, it's kind of like in the sense of like when you're talking about telepathy versus, so it's like I could think of a sentence, whatever. I can say, all right, there's this paragraph trying to get to you, but it comes to you not as this paragraph, but as a visual, it kind of flashes. And I was listening to DH and JD's podcast. They kind of talked about during the rite of deification how DH is able to kind of see kind of like, oh, there's the water there, the fire, the chicken head, but it's not like he saw the whole entire scene. He just saw flashes of the different types of things going on and such. And I think that's kind of like exactly like soul travel and all that. We're getting a little bit of the data, but you're not getting all the data. And to being too caught up in that itself is, I mean, then you can get lost and make up some things. You know what I mean?
Oh no, absolutely, and that is one of the beauties of soul travel, is that you start seeing pretty quickly on these higher planes how you can think something and it appears, it manifests, that you are a creator on all planes. It just takes a little bit more time in the physical, a little bit more time, a little bit more effort on the physical plane, but we are creators. And so we can create a reality maybe so divergent from somebody else's reality that while somebody else might have a moon that's composed of asteroids or whatever, that another person could be viewing a moon that is a machine, and both can be equally right. Schrodinger's moon.
Yeah, it's one just got done watching Star Wars. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right.
Well, I'm gonna stop my live stream and then just say just say a couple things to you and then I head out. Thank you guys all for watching on the live stream. I appreciate it. You guys are all great. Have a great day, and remember, like, you can do anything. It all starts from in here, though.